Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Raw Light podcast. Today we have the beautiful Tarra on. She's a Vedic astrologer and lives in Perth, WA, which is so sometimes difficult to find some really amazing people in Perth, and she is one of those human beings. Now, I've lived in Perth most of my life. I lived there for about 6 years, and currently we're not living there at the moment, but we're moving back down south. I love Perth and I have a lot of hope for Perth and the energy in the future. And Tara is somebody that is extremely profound in the profession that she does. And there's not many people in Perth who do something like Tara. So if you do live in Perth, WA, reach out to her, have a chat with her, book a session in. She also has this beautiful community group where she talks about the new moon and the full moon every month, which I think would benefit a lot of you guys. So make sure you do jump on and have a little conversation with her and find out any information you wish to have. And also, I want to make it very, very clear, this podcast this week, there was a bit of trouble when we were recording and it stopped recording after 40 minutes. So I've had to adjust it the best way that I can. So please be patient. Please feel free to skip forward through my talking through the middle, but my talking through the middle talks about Tara a little bit more, also how you can find her on Instagram. So please be patient this week. If it is annoying for you, please let me know, but it was a pure accident. My computer was having a bit of malfunction and we both had to kind of adjust to it. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast as much as I did, because it was an absolute blast to meet Tara and interview her. So enjoy. Hi guys, welcome back to the Raw Light podcast. Today we have Tara, who is a Vedic astrologer. I'm absolutely so excited for this podcast. It's been a long time coming, and I actually think that this is one of the most exciting podcasts that I am doing at the moment in my life, because it has so much of what I love about my work, and it also is very unique, and a lot of people don't actually know what Vedic astrology is. So welcome, Tara, and thank you for being here today. Would you be able to let people know what you do and why it's so important to the world to know this? Because I feel like it's a little hidden subject that people don't want to go into.
Yes, thank you, Danielle. It's so nice to be on your podcast. So as you mentioned, it's Vedic astrology. So it's known as Jyotish, which is Sanskrit, and it translates to the science of light. And basically, when we think about light, it's illuminating. So in the ancient Vedic texts, this is how Vedic astrology was referred to, as the light, so shining the light on your path. And I like to use that when I'm explaining Vedic astrology, because it's this self awareness tool that we can implement that can shine the light on our path. So when we've become lost, this is a beautiful tool that we can come back to illuminate areas of our life. And there's so many different facets of Vedic astrology. It is one of the limbs of the Vedas. So there's also within this limb is yoga, Ayurveda, which is the science of life, Vatsu, and so these are all integrated and they're meant to work together. And so, Vedic astrology is a part of this. And I have used this tool for myself and for my clients now, because I feel it is such an incredibly deep, not only spiritual practice, but really understanding ourselves on a really deep level. So that's what I like to help others with, to understand their purpose, and I think, and their dharma. And I think that can be very charged now, like, what's our purpose? And it being this really, at some points, this existential crisis, but it's more around the essence of our soul evolution and why we're here, and really going into those deeper layers of our karma and why we chose to incarnate at this time.
Yeah, it's so, you put that so beautifully. I absolutely love how you said everything. And the reason why you really align with me was because my mentor is Indian, so he's a rishi, and so I've worked with him since I was 15, and along the way we've spoken about different types of strategies that you can use to help yourself evolve. And one of them was recently I brought up with him Vedic astrology. So with everything that you said, the work that I do with him is clearing karma. And so I've been clearing karma since the age of 15. And the reason why I'm going into that is because I was saying to him, I really want to find a really good Vedic astrologer to talk to get to know a little bit more about why and how we can figure out our purpose here, because so many people are so lost, including myself. And I've been doing this for a really I think I'm only 30, but I think it's been a really long time. And I'm like, wow, I really want to know more about me and how it ticks. And the normal astrology, I was talking to him, and recently I'd been doing a bit of work on myself, and he was like, we're going to get into now something that you need to discover about yourself. And I only that day that he spoke to me, I'd been looking at my Vedic astrology, and I think it had a Cancer for my first sign instead of a Leo. And I actually resonate with Cancer so much more than a Leo, which really, I think, surprised my body. And I mean, Western astrology has such a pull, right, over our lives. So can you kind of explain maybe to everyone, including me, because I'm so interested to know where did Vedic get so lost? Because I know that all these ancient traditions have been lost for so long, and now women are like stepping back into really aligning into what they feel they can really help other women project forward. So how did we lose? Did we ever lose it, or is it just like a hidden gem that we have never known, and the Western just kind of took over and did its thing?
Yeah, there's so many layers to this.
Yeah,
I really feel that it has been suppressed.
yeah,
And like all things that have incredible power, and I think of the divine feminine when I say this, has had these layers of suppression
mm,
like placed upon it because it is so powerful.
mm,
And you can see that, especially with Vedic astrology, how it was very threatening, especially to religion, because it was something that gave authority over religion. Like it had that power and it had that
mm,
direct connection to yourself and divinity.
yeah,
So you can see those layers why they wanted to be suppressed.
mm,
And yeah, so I think that we're in these times that we're going to in now,
mm,
that more awareness, more light is coming onto these ancient sciences,
yeah,
and are getting to understand their power. And to me, the Vedic texts, the oldest texts in existence, are the ultimate form of truth.
yeah,
And so I just keep on going back to that.
mm,
And yeah, so the main difference being is Vedic astrology, it is working with the sidereal system. So that means it is working with the astronomy,
mm,
so where the stars are in the sky. So if you could see directly above you right now,
mm,
you would see the constellation that is above you. And
yeah,
this is what sidereal Vedic astrology references.
mm,
It is always going back to what we call the fixed stars. So
mm,
this is why Vedic astrology is actually a science-based system,
yeah,
whereas Western astrology is no longer
mm,
referencing the fixed stars.
yeah,
It used to be 2000 years ago, these two systems were together and
yeah,
they both referenced the fixed stars. But now the Western astrology, it is a energetic imprint of what was left over in the sky where it once used to be.
yeah,
And just to give like some context around that, I'm not going to give like a full astronomy lesson here, but um, we have what you call precession, which is the tilting of the Earth's axis.
okay,
And that happens at different degrees. We're tilting further and further away.
Okay.
And this can be up to where we are now, 24 degrees.
Yeah.
And so what happens if the Earth is moving and it's tilting?
Mm.
That means what was above us is no longer there, and we have to re-reference to what is above us.
Yeah.
And so the Vedic system, which is referenced to be 5,000, 8,000 years in existence,
Yeah.
understood this concept, and it still references the stars, whereas the Western system hasn't accounted for what we call precession. And
Mm.
this is why it's no longer, isolating back to fixed stars.
Mm.
So when we have, say, for example, a new moon in what Western would say Capricorn,
Mm.
in the Vedic system, it would be in Sagittarius. And it's like it's nearly a whole sign out now
Yeah.
because every zodiac sign is 30 degrees,
Yeah.
and the difference between these two systems is 24 degrees. So you can see how now,
Yeah.
over these thousands of years,
Mm.
that these systems are so far away from each other now.
That's absolutely crazy to think that. Well, actually, no, it's not, because with my work as well, it's kind of like there's this such a big gap in like where we need to be well, as a community, and then as a global community, really. Of there's such a separation in Western with the. I liked the way that you said about the religions, because I think it plays a massive part and I talk a lot about that on here on my podcast, about going internally and finding out yourself. And I feel Vedic astrology really has, for me anyway, I've really dove into it and really I can't read it for the life of me. I'm like, I've got no idea what's going on. But where the placements are in my chart makes more sense to me than where the placements were in the Western. It was almost like I was blinded to just go, oh yeah, this is what it is. And because I'm so into getting to know myself, diving deeper and really wanting to understand who I am as a human and how I move and tick, I found that Vedic, even just looking it up and even looking up the meanings to it, meant more to me than the Western. And it feels now like I'm just going to leave the Western in behind me and bring Vedic into everybody's life around me. I feel like the culture behind it is so sacred as well. And it's also, I don't know how you feel about that. Do you feel like it's a sacred practice that you practice? Because I've heard you talk on your podcast, and I actually love how you are so gracious and so strong and so powerful in your knowledge. And I feel like you have a lot of respect for it. What do you take your clients through, and how can they discover themselves? Because I have a lot of clients that sometimes want to go a bit deeper, and they're like, oh, I don't do astrology, it's not my thing. And I think that women who do it are freaking incredible. What do you take people through to get them to go a bit deeper? Do you kind of just like lay out and tell them, can you read a whole chart and kind of know who they are as a person, or can you? I know that's crazy to say, but does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, there's so much to that. I definitely agree with you. I went down the similar path. I actually discovered Vedic astrology through Ayurveda. I was studying Ayurveda, which is the sister science
Yeah.
of the Vedic limbs.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was normally taught with Ayurveda, but now it's sort of even getting more dissected,
Yeah.
so no longer put together. But when I found it, I was aware of Western astrology,
Mm.
and I liked Western astrology, and I understood the concepts, and as we all do, like the star signs and
Yeah.
all this. But then I actually studied astronomy at university
Okay.
and couldn't understand why I was studying astrology because it had no scientific
Yeah.
merit. And it was only through studying Ayurveda and coming across Vedic astrology that
Mm.
I realized there was a different form of astrology, the oldest form of astrology, and it actually was referenced to science. And it did have this sacredness to it, like you mentioned.
Mm.
Whereas I think that because the Western astrology has been, I almost think there's a mockery of the Western
Yeah.
system because of how, only the sun signs are prioritized, where in Vedic astrology we give
Mm.
much more preference to our rising sign and our moon sign.
Mm.
And also that, yeah, it's this pseudoscience. And
Mm.
so I really do consider understanding Vedic astrology to be really sacred, and I want to hold its integrity. The only thing is, which I don't find any of the Vedic sciences do, is not
Mm.
having any of the dogma. So not having that restriction is really important. So not boxing ourselves in,
Mm.
not seeing it as disempowering. If you read something in your chart and it feels frightening or yeah, disempowering in any way, that is actually not what it is meant for.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be empowerment.
Mm.
So that's what I want to say about that. So yes, I definitely
Mm.
do. And can I read someone from a chart session? Yes, I can get a very good understanding diving into someone's chart.
Yeah.
What I look at first is typically their rising sign.
Yeah.
And this gives me so much understanding to why the soul incarnated, what
Wow. Yeah.
karma challenges we're going to have, and the opportunities as well.
Yeah.
But then also what is really fascinating to me is seeing the state of our health
Mm.
and where potential weaknesses are from our ascendant sign. Just that one position can tell me so much.
Yeah.
And then from there, I look at the moon sign, which is Vedic astrology is actually a lunar based system. So I guess it's more of a feminine based system.
Yeah.
And the moon gives us so much information, its placement, what house it's in regards to our mind, our emotion, our intuition. And then our sun sign, as we know, is important, and it gives us, or it shows me our identity, our soul. But the sun sign is something that we grow more into the characteristics as we get older. So
Yeah.
we'll notice that we embody more of like that personality from the sun sign. I also look at if that you have a stellium, which is like a congregation of Platon, which is, responsible for our karma. This gives us a really good understanding. And also your Jupiter sign, I like to look at this. Jupiter is what we call a benefic planet.
Yeah.
And so this is where we have expansion in our life. So I like looking at this. I also look at your what we call Rahu and Ketu placements, which are the karmic nodes. And this can give me a really good understanding of what types of past lives that you've lived before.
Yeah. Wow.
Not that we want to get stuck or caught up in our past lives, but I
Mm.
find this gives a lot of compassion to the soul and
Mm.
understanding to understand what kind of challenges and sometimes like why we think the way that we think or why we have experienced what we have.
Yeah.
It gives this kind of exhale to think, okay, this is these past lives that I've lived. I want to try and break free of that. I want to, be responding rather than reacting. I want to live a different path.
Mm.
And this is where we get to consciously choose, obviously with our willpower. And all of these placements are just giving us a deeper understanding of ourself.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I also like to look at what we call your dasha placements.
Yeah.
And this is something that is unique to Vedic astrology. And I feel one of the most powerful things
Mm.
to look at is a dasha is known as a planetary period. And this is where our life is broken up into
Mm.
different planets ruling at different times of our life.
Yeah.
And in the Vedic text, it's said that our soul chooses when we want to go through certain planetary periods, because really tapping into the energy of that planet can help us to evolve our soul, especially when we have that awareness around what the energies are. Different areas of our life will be activated, and just having that conscious awareness of that and what the qualities of the planets are and how we can use the energy is yeah, never lost on me how powerful that is.
Mm.
And through these dasha periods, there is in total 120. So it's said that we should be able to experience, all of the planetary periods. In Ayurveda, the life expectancy was around 120 years. So hopefully experience all of those planetary periods, and yeah, getting that opportunity. And so those are the main things I like to look at with Vedic astrology. And in my work, it's
Mm.
incredibly important that it's practical, as well as, because there's so much knowledge, there's so much wisdom that you can look at in the chart, and it's definitely deeper than a one session. But for me, the greatest thing I can give someone is the practical way to apply
Mm.
this information into their life.
Yeah.
Like, this is great wisdom, knowledge, but how do I practically apply it to my life? And I don't know if you've ever had these sessions before where you've come away and you're like, that was amazing. I had so many ahas. And then it just gets so overwhelming because there's so much. You just don't know what to grab onto.
Mm.
And so I think it's really important to have that practical application, a bit of a strategy on how to, yeah, use the information that's within your chart.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. Thank you for that rundown. That was absolutely incredible, to be honest. Just hearing you talk about that and breaking it down so well. And I do agree with you. When I used to get lots of information from my mentor, it was a lot to kind of like, I would try and take snippets and try and be like, well, maybe it's this, or maybe it's that, maybe it needs to be this. And it was, now I don't do it because I'm in a different stage, and I understand that the knowledge that comes from within me and my soul downloads to me. So I'm very lucky that I've got that for me. So a lot of people do get stuck. I have clients that I try and break things down so that they can physically go away and do something, or physically know the root cause, and we can work on it. So then it's not just, let's just slap something on it and, then go on. And I feel like you do the same. It's kind of like, I can give you the keys and the tools to focus on this area, and then to not overload somebody is so huge when there's so much information out there, because me and you could talk for hours, I feel like, on different subjects and different things on it, and we would probably just flow through it quite easily. But for people who are really just wanting to know themselves and discover themselves, it can be quite a shock for the body and the system, especially when we've known one way our whole life and then we go the other way and start to unravel that layer. And I mean, everything that you just kind of talked about is so fascinating to me. I find that the moon sign, and then you said the rising, yeah, without that they're like one of the higher ones than the sun, because we do in Western, everyone goes on about what sun are you and stuff like that, and it's kind of, I always felt a bit disconnected from it when I was like listening to other astrologers. No offense to other Western astrologers, but I just don't align with that personally myself. And I heard a podcast a couple of months back, I think it was, and I was like, I don't agree with anything that has come up. And maybe that's because I kind of know a little bit of the energetic patterns myself with it, the work that I do. But when I heard you talk about Vedic astrology, especially with what's been going on at the moment, it felt like it was more aligned to me. So can you explain to people now what is going on in the world at the moment? Because a lot of people are going through a really big shock to their system and a really big like awakening, but then we're hearing one thing from Western and then another thing from Vedic, and Gets complicated.
Yes, it gets so complicated, and I really have been, I feel a bit rebellious, and I just been, counter, yeah, showing what is actually happening in the astronomy. And the reason that I find that important to do and just to have a different narrative is just to like expand people's awareness.
Mm,
And that's what I love about when people actually do find their Vedic chart and they do find Vedic astrology, because sometimes, most of the time, it's a big identity shift.
yeah.
But that's such an opportunity
Mm,
to be so expanded and to actually dive into what you were holding on to
mm,
and what you can let go of, and how you can, yeah, what you can embrace and how you can deeper dive. So yes, there is at the moment there is a big shift happening, and as you said, I think a lot of people are feeling it. And what this is, there is up to eight different planetary energies in the sign of Pisces.
mm,
And why this is significant is because when planets sort of congregate in one area of a chart, like in a sign, this is an incredible amount of energy. Also, we have two planets at the moment in retrograde. And
mm,
in Vedic astrology, when planets retrograde, different to what Western astrology says, in Vedic astrology, we say that when a planet is retrograde, it actually gets stronger. So having both Mercury and Venus both retrograding, as well as other planetary bodies within this zodiac sign, you can see that there's a lot of energy
yeah.
happening here. And another significant change that has just happened on the 29th of March is that Saturn has just also moved into Pisces. And this one is quite significant because Saturn is a slow moving planet, and it is the also the ruler of karma. And so when Saturn changes signs, it not only personally
Mm,
affects us, but it also affects the collective. And this only happens every 2.5 years. So this is the shift that a lot of us are feeling. And where it is in Pisces is quite unique, because Pisces is the sign, it's a water sign, and it's symbolized as a fish swimming up and a fish swimming down in the Vedic text. So it really shows that a fish like swimming up to liberation. So, and then a fish swimming down to more the Maya, or what we would reference as illusion, or, if you want to say the Matrix. And so you have these two, dual forces happening here, and it's really the opportunity to,
mm,
do you want to shatter the illusion,
mm,
or do you want to go more into escapism? And you can really see how, people are, a lot are becoming more awake,
yeah.
are seeing deeper levels of reality,
Yeah.
and then just some that do not want to see that at all, and that's going back into the Maya and the illusion and the Matrix, which is more to do with escapism. So, overconsumption on social media, and all these forms of escapism, from, like overindulgence in food to, things that aren't great for us. And, the a classic one of that is, addiction and drugs and things like that, where the consciousness just does not want to
Mm,
um, see the real layers of true reality. And so I think that's going to become more and more
mm,
with this shift with
yeah.
Saturn. Pisces is also the most spiritual sign of the zodiac. So I think that there's also an opportunity here for a lot of spirituality to come into the collective more than it ever has before. I think there's an opportunity for that collective healing, I think that a lot of these ancient modalities and also structured modalities, and what I mean by structured is Saturn has its rings, so it is, really likes order and structure and practicality. So I see these, spiritual forms that really require that discipline and structure becoming more cool, I guess. So your meditation, your Kundalini, those yoga, those practices that really need that discipline, I see that is going to become, yeah, cool again.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to also be interesting to see what happens with the integration with technology and spirituality. I'm
Yeah.
really interested to see how that plays
Mm.
into this shift.
Yeah.
Also with the artificial intelligence and yeah, whether that is going to be more regulated technology because Saturn being, that ruling force, Saturn is also known as more of like that father energy, like that coming in and ruling and saying like this isn't right, this needs to be more, moral or more ethical. So I think that will be a really interesting shift as well. And just this creativity that Pisces is known for as well. I think it's going to be really interesting what sort of collective creative, abstract music, film, fashion. It'll be really interesting to see how that is going to be more structured and what that looks like. And so, yeah, those are the things that I'm interested to see. But I also feel because Pisces is the 12th house, it's to
Mm.
do with the subconscious. I
Mm.
also think that mental health is also going to come into focus, and there might be more structures with Saturn being structure.
Mm.
There might be more support there for people that are struggling with mental health. So there might be more focus on those areas as well.
Mm. Okay. That's like, I'm like, well, like my brain is just like, that's so freaking incredible. um, All right, guys, we're going to take a little intermittent in the middle of this. We're going to talk about Tarra for a second. Her Instagram is at Tarra Lee Rullo, and she's an absolutely incredible human being. Now, I found Vedic astrology so interesting, and this podcast is beyond out of this world. If you have a look at Tara, she actually looks like she's an absolute goddess from another world, and her information is so profound. This is all from stuff that she has learnt off other people as well as herself. But she is so authentic, guys, and I would highly recommend getting on there and actually like going and having a look at her social media, reaching out and contacting, chatting to her, because Tara has so much beautiful information. It's so very important to remember that these people who are speaking about this stuff that I've picked, they are people who are very authentic and making a big movement in this world. Tara lives in Perth, WA, so anyone in Perth that's wanting a reading from her, I highly recommend jumping on and having a little chat to her. So I'll leave you guys there and let's keep going with the body.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh.
So Tara, with the planets, I was just wondering, like, from what you just said just then, the planets, they can specifically influence, obviously, the Earth because they're around it. Is that right? So a lot of people, I know some people don't believe in astrology, and if someone's on here and they're a bit skeptical about it, all that you've just said, and it plays such a role on Earth, is it the push and pull and the magnetizing between the energy of the Earth in between the planets? Is that how it works with Vedic, or did I get that wrong? Am I guessing with that?
Yeah, it's different planets within different constellations. So it's really the constellations that are really interplaying with the planets. So it's kind of both. It's both the planetary energy
Yeah.
but also the zodiac is really flavoring
Yeah.
what is going to be influenced. And
Yeah.
so equally important. So we're talking here on a subtle vibrational level.
Yeah.
So that's, for example, so when we have a new moon, we look at what constellation that is happening in that phase, and the
Mm.
same with the full moon, what zodiac, because it really flavors
Yeah,
the
right.
type of moon, the type of energy, and the experience that we're feeling as a collective. And I
Mm.
like to reference this to uh, Nostradamus, because Nostradamus, he was known as like a psychic, but
Mm.
he was actually a astrologer. And the way that he could predict events way into the future beyond his lifetime is
Mm.
because he was actually looking at the astrology and he was actually using that to map out what potentially could happen,
Wow.
even though he was only doing this as this is what potentially could happen. I hope that the collective consciousness doesn't get to some of these points, but
Yeah.
that's how he was mapping it out. And
Mm.
this is why astrology is such a powerful tool, because
Mm.
a lot of people are using it in powerful positions to understand where our collective consciousness is going to be, how we're going to be influenced, what style we're going to like, what the stock market is going to be doing,
Mm.
all these types of things. It's the only really predictive tool that we
Mm.
have ahead in the future.
Wow. Okay. And do you live by that? Would you say that like you would go and have a look at what's happening in astrology for the next 12 months, and do you and your husband plan out where you're going to be, what you would do, what you invest in then? Does it play a big role in your own life? Because I can imagine what I do with my work, me and my husband implement in our life, and it gives us an advantage just because we know what we know and what we do. Do you guys do that as a couple as well? I'm just very curious because I think a lot of people don't realize how influential the astrology is with like it going sometimes back in time with clothes as well. So
Yeah.
like, do you guys just take a look and see what you might be into then, and what you also might take a step back from as well at that time?
Yes, this is the really interesting levels of it, because I think as soon as you start letting like a system um,
Rule you?
dominate, yes, yes. So I
Yeah.
think there is definitely a fine line. My husband is definitely not into like the spiritual aspects of this.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be having the same type of conversation that I am with you with him.
Yeah.
And so, but definitely I look at what is coming up for me. I look
Yeah.
at how I can navigate things in the
Mm.
best way. And I also look at the collective consciousness, absolutely, because
Mm.
in astrology we say forewarned is forearmed. And I really like that, in saying that, you know, preparing ourselves. It's almost as though also hear that saying of astrology is like a weather forecast. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
know that it's going to rain, so you bring your umbrella. And I
Yeah.
feel that this is the same with the astrology, and why I think over the years, actually since finding Vedic astrology, I
Mm.
feel very grounded
Yeah.
in life,
Mm.
because I know that everything is going to pass, and it gives me a deeper understanding of why certain things are happening, and also, yeah, just how to navigate things in a much more graceful way.
Mm.
So I don't see it as a controlling or restrictive fear-based system where I think can
Yeah.
be a trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that even to a certain degree, sometimes reading our own chart
Mm.
can be challenging,
Mm.
because we are we're too close to it. If
Yeah, yep, I definitely
you
agree.
Yeah,
Mm,
and so
mm,
I think you have to be cautious in what you're seeing,
mm.
and yeah, use that discretion too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is a powerful tool,
Mm.
and I definitely think there is pros and cons, and like everything, you can use fire for good and fire for destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that when you first spiritually awaken, everyone goes through a time where they somehow get into, I'm going to take from everywhere because I need to learn everything. And it's just like filling your brain with all this stuff. And then hopefully, some people unfortunately get stuck in that trap and keep going in that loop. Hopefully, you can move yourself like Tara has. And I'm speaking from my own experience as well, removed myself from that type of thinking you need to be in everything and do everything to figure out who you are. And actually, when you let your energy settle and yourself settle after having an awakening, because it's such a big thing, there's this beauty in it, I think, from what you're saying as well, Tara, and just learning bits and pieces, but not diving completely in it and making it rule your life. Like, I'm grateful that you said that because at one point I used to let my spiritual work rule my life. And then I realized that there's an ego for me. There was an ego, a part of that attached to it. And now I live very free. It's the most freeing feeling knowing that I have these powers and these gifts and those things, but I also have the knowledge to know that it's not everything. You still need to live a human life. You still need to experience a human life. You can still take all this on and you can still take it by a tiny pinch of salt as well as, taking something and really shifting and changing your life. And I
Mm.
just really loved how you said that because it's something that I have come now that I'm 30. My early 20s was that. It was like, realizing all my gifts and being like, I have to be in this all the time, constantly 24/7. And I'm sure you've gone through a patch in astrology that's taught you, I'm not going to speak for you, but a lesson about that and just kind of going with that. I would really love for you to talk to people as well, especially people that listen to this podcast. Some of them are looking for relationships. I'm curious to know how you go with your husband not being so into astrology, because a lot of people think that your husband has to be like this super spiritual person as well. When all you need is just a grounded human being that you love and knows, respects you. And I'm not going to speak for you, but how does that go for
So
you guys? Like,
that
how did that,
that Yes, that's such an important question. And I just wanted to add on to what you were saying. And I
Mm,
think it's really important. And that not forgetting that in Vedic astrology, we would say that we can
mm,
transcend your chart. So even though I think that the chart is so powerful and the astrology and the astronomy is so powerful. There's always that understanding that when we reach enlightenment, you can no longer read your chart because you've transcended the karmic cycle. And
mm,
so don't see your chart as limiting. Use
mm.
it as like a guide, use it as a self-development, use it to show your innate talents and gifts,
Beautiful.
but
Yeah.
don't get constricted by it, is basically what I want to say. So there's
Yeah.
always that, yeah, transcending that I
Yeah.
like to bring back to you. And then I love this question about marriage and partnership. And in the Vedic philosophy, we partner is our greatest mirror, and it's someone that is always challenging us and
Mm,
always getting us to, like triggering us. So
mm.
challenging and triggering us. And I find that having my husband that is so grounded and so opposite to me. And just to give you an understanding of that, so I am Virgo rising and he is Pisces rising. We're
Mm.
actually opposites, literally opposites in our signs.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
what I love about that is that he is so different, and it is something that I really thrive with because he doesn't just take it on face value, and
Mm.
it's also very grounding to me. I think if I know myself now,
Yeah.
I know if I had someone that was as equally as spiritual as me, I would fly away.
Mm. Yeah.
No,
Yes.
I really do need that grounding force that is really steeped in the material world.
Yeah.
And for me, that is something that is really grounding and also, yeah, gets me to talk about astrology I feel like he's pushed me to speak about astrology in a more grounded way as well.
Mm.
And yeah, he is very open-minded though.
Mm.
He is, and which is the thing that I love the most about him. He's very open-minded, so he's not judgmental. He is very accepting in
Mm.
how I think and how I go about things. And so
Mm.
I think on that level, it really works, even though we have, different methods of doing things and him not being into astrology, and sometimes he listens to me and sometimes he doesn't.
That's so funny. It's like me and my husband. I love that. I love that so much. Sometimes he listens, sometimes he doesn't. I actually get that so much. And I think that's so beautiful as well because I think a lot of the spiritual community, and I'm going to use myself as an example. I actually dated someone who was quite ungrounded spiritual at the time, and I didn't realize it. It was a reflection of me. I was also the same. But after that, I realized I didn't. It's very false on their end, and it was like a mask that they were wearing because
Mm,
it was very easy to hide their pain through it.
mm,
And for me, it's a very much deeply ingrained in my DNA to be who I am this lifetime as a healer. And I've got generations of like my grandmother, my great grandmother, and people before me on both sides, and my aunties are very interconnected with healing. So for me, it's a very deeply grounded thing in my body. So I thought that I needed someone similar to me, but I actually needed someone more solid and grounded, and someone who can help me be more grounded in my life and be more solid within me and more powerful. And I do the same for them. I bring in a different type of, energy to my husband, and I help him, soften and see things differently. So like, you can be in and out, and I think
mm.
it's important. Sorry, I was just laughing because I'm like, now I need to go on my husband's chart and be like, what's yours and what's mine? Like everyone's just getting out their chart and they're like, so what did she say was the rising and what did she say was the uh yeah, so it's a good balance, and thank you for saying that because I think a lot of people would expect yourself to, like someone like yourself, to be with another astrologer or someone else who's in a bigger role like that.
Yes.
Yeah. How many years have you been? Have you always been with your husband and done astrology, or have before that you've not? No.
Yeah, that's a
Sorry.
very great question. No, when I met my husband, I've always been very spiritual, but I
Mm,
wasn't practicing astrology at that time.
yeah.
And it wasn't until my mum got unwell that I discovered Ayurveda and then Vedic astrology, and I guess more of
Mm,
that next layer of spiritual awakening happened.
yeah. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that really pushed me to become more spiritual. And so, yeah, it was a unfolding. So he, yeah, got to experience that in real time after he was already locked in.
Oh, it's funny. I actually had the same thing happen with my mum, by the way. My mum got really unwell, and it actually awoken me and my older brother, and it actually set chain in motion for me to really step into. I stepped out of something and stepped into something else, and it was really, really powerful. So I've had that experience before of that like chain reaction of an awakening from a family member.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I gave you my astrology.
Yes,
I
yes,
do that. Would
yes.
you mind giving us like a, doesn't have to be long. It can be just like however much you would look. I would just love to know, just pick your brain, even if it's for like a couple of minutes, whatever you want to share about my chart. I thought it'd be fun for Tara to pick away at me, like a few other people have done, to just kind of, just from what you see, if you can explain a little bit of it, that would be great. So
Yeah.
people can kind of get a little glimpse of what you do, but in a smaller scale. And Tara is someone that I would highly recommend booking in with and really taking your time with her and divulging through your chart and getting to know you in such a safe space, because she's probably the first person that I've found that I feel very safe with, and that says a lot considering I don't work with anyone but my mentor, and I only pick specific people who I feel would really expand, and also who would really respect my energy. So Tara is someone that I would highly recommend going and seeing. My sister-in-law has seen her as well, and her ratings are through the roof. So please know that she is someone who is to be trusted.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Yes, I loved looking at your chart. The first thing that I looked at was your rising sign. And you'll remember I spoke about the rising sign as, being an integral part of our chart. So I wanted to let you know that in the Vedic system, you would know that your rising is Libra.
Yeah.
And going into this even deeper with Vedic astrology, we look at what is known as the nakshatras. And the nakshatras basically are the 12 zodiac signs broken down even further. So instead of having 12, we now have 27 segments.
Yeah.
And so when I speak about the nakshatra, it's getting an even closer snapshot of the exact star constellation that you were born in, which
Wow.
can give us so much information around that. And so I wanted to let you know you were born in Swati.
Okay.
And Swati it's referred to as the free spirit of the cosmos.
Okay.
Is ruled by the god of wind.
Yep.
So
Okay,
there's
that
the
makes
wind element here.
sense.
There's a lot of independence with Swati. It's symbolized as both a sword and both a blade of grass. But I really like this because both, when you look into the symbolism,
Mm.
they're about seeking expansion, they're about knowledge, they're about personal freedom.
Mm.
And it's the sword reference is coming back to being able to cut through illusions, being able to negotiate, being able to really navigate life.
Mm.
And it also, the sword is about that refined intellect, that ability to have a really sharp intellect, to really see things.
Yeah.
And the blade of grass is a really beautiful symbolism of that. The grass is adaptable and movable and bendable. When you trod on the grass, it's like
Yeah.
it's gonna spring back up. And so that is the the reference there. It's about really having that resilience and that ability to be, yeah, embody power as well.
Mm.
And you're not, yeah, confined at all. The thing that I love about the Swati Nakshatra is that it really does give this strong sense of individuality, and other placements in your chart really show this as well. But this really shows to me, and probably why we connect as well, is you have this you don't like being boxed or put in tight structures, or you want to pave your own path is really important with the Swati energy.
Yeah.
And it's also, you have this really persuasive communication, like your voice carries a lot of power, which
Yeah.
is obviously why you're doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And you're meant to speak, meant to write, teach, sharing your insights. Again, like shifting perspectives is part of that soul evolution and
Okay.
part of that purpose that you're here for.
Yeah.
And when coming back to that wind reference as well, with being the god of the wind, it's that being also a master of time and a master of strategy. So you
Yeah.
can change directions. You
Mm.
can you sort of like know on that soul level when to act, when to wait. And it's kind of like you're this natural strategist with this Swati energy. And again, with that wielding that sword as well, like knowing when to fight, when to not.
Mm.
And so yeah, this is what I love about the Swati energy. And it's also yeah, using your voice with intention, coming back to that is going to be really important for you. And
Yeah.
it is, yeah, a really powerful energy, this nakshatra. So I love that. And then I also wanted to, what I loved about your chart, as you know, your sun is in Cancer,
Mm.
and obviously this is Vedic,
Yeah.
and this is what gives you that emotional depth
Yeah.
and that nurturing energy. It gives you, it's in your 10th house. I don't know if you know that. And the 10th house is all to do with our public image and our career. And
Yeah.
so this really gives you this focus on leadership, but your leadership with being in Cancer is going to give you more of this emotional leadership. So it
Okay.
really is wanting you to, oh, well, it gives you that emotional intelligence. So you have empathy. That's really going to be a driver for your personal success rather than just, you know, the narrow path of
Yeah.
rigid success.
Yeah.
And there's also that of your career. It's serving others. It's making an impact because of that Cancerian energy in here and that desire to guide others and
Mm.
doing that in a professional setting, being in the 10th house. And it also gives you this strong reputation and legacy with the sun being in your 10th house. And you're seen as someone that is trustworthy, dependable, and compassionate because of this, having the sun there. And you know, you really support, you really care, you guide. So it's this energy of like that counselor, but it's also that, you know, that social, that teaching, but also in a health capacity as well. And so there's all of those elements with this beautiful Cancerian energy. So again, like if we're looking at typical career paths. It's like a healing profession. It's public service in some way, or it's emotional depth, like creative expression. These are the types of qualities with that Cancerian energy.
Mm.
A lower vibrational aspect of this, I would say, is over caring, if
Yeah.
there's such a thing, and that self-sacrifice. So being aware of, you know, not burning yourself out at the risk of, you know, really nurturing others, because that is that Cancerian yeah, tendency to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what I wanted to say about your sun. And then
Yeah.
the other thing that I loved about your chart is when we look at Rahu, which is your North Node karmic placement,
Yeah.
this is all about establishing yourself as a leader in this lifetime. And it's about really you taking bold steps, and it's more in this lifetime about your path
Yeah.
and really uh, you know, redeveloping your connection with your identity in this
Yeah.
lifetime is like a key,
Mm.
yeah, a key part of the journey,
Yeah.
because in previous lifetimes you have really sacrificed your identity for others, like helping
Mm.
them with theirs. And so in this lifetime, it really is about rediscovering your
Mm.
and reestablishing your identity, your sense of self.
Yeah.
And and this is why being called to the tool of astrology is also
Mm.
important as well, because it can be a really powerful tool to remind us
Mm.
who we are, what our strengths are. But you are really here to be a pioneer, to take up space, to be the initiator and to start things
Yeah.
is really what this energy is really strong in your chart.
That's
Does this resonate with you? I'd love
yeah,
to.
like no, like 100%. I'm just taking it all in. I thought I was going to cry for a moment, so I was just letting myself do my thing. I was just like such a Cancer thing to do. It's just cry. Everything you've said for me, anyway, I know is very authentic because everything that you said, I've been working on with my mentor since I was 15. So not many people know this, but it's not like I just started working with a mentor and stayed working with a mentor. He picked me because of my chart, because of what I'm here to do in life, and I didn't even know half of it at 15. My mum has even stronger energy than me, and so our family is basically born with people who are pioneering in their own realm. And so everything that you said really aligns with me because I didn't just start with him because one day it was I got chosen by him, and he picks and chooses based on what they're supposed to achieve in life, and if they're supposed to remove some of their karmic energy to be able to fulfill who they were in their future lifetimes. And so my last couple of lifetimes, I know I kind of messed around and like I was really annoyed at, I think it was either myself or I think way back when, I think it was in the 30s, I was speaking about things that I wasn't supposed to be and I got killed. And then I came back and was like, I'm just going to party and basically sacrifice who I am and just like be this seen in the limelight. So in not a very healthy way. So this lifetime I came back to clear all my karma, to really work hard on myself. So my journey is a very interesting one. Like you said, I could basically write a book about my life already, and I'm 30, about the ins and outs, about when things dropped, and like how I could, when I was dating, know that right away that person wasn't for me, or I could see where I was going and what I was doing and navigating with sight and seeing and feeling. And it's kind of, you didn't exactly say those words, but everything you've mentioned about being a leader and everything you've mentioned about stepping in and really pioneering the way and leaving a legacy is something that has been drilled in, like I felt was always there inside me since I was younger. And because of my gifts and what I could do, it was just more amplified to be. And my voice, I know, has more weight, and I never used to know that. So like I've been through every transformation you can go, I think, on the flip scale of a Cancer, of really understanding the heavier side of the emotions and understanding the depth of going into a slight depression and pulling myself out, and how that can help other people heal, and the depth of my feminine energy. And also massive thing that might be huge for me to say to you was the air part, where you said the air. I'm from a water and an air planet originally. This is going to blow people's minds, me saying that. And so when I'm in my sessions with my mentor, sometimes I swing in and out with air and water depending on what we're doing, to pull in different energies that I need to be able to direct me in the right direction. So that's completely connecting back into my soul and pulling that down. So that completely resonates with me, with everything that you've said on that. And then going into more of just like understanding about like just everything you said made me realize that I need to keep moving on my path and not question myself as much and not stop myself as much and overthink the process of it. It's kind of like just keep pushing forward and things will just unravel as you push forward. But the more I think that, and the whole caging thing is so huge as well. It's always been my life, and I thought maybe I connected to the Leo side of things with that, but I was like, it doesn't feel right. But the Cancer side of always like breaking through and, not being in a cage and, those things I've worked through my whole life to be able to feel so free within me. So there's not much that can knock me around now, because I've gotten to a point where, like you said, if I step on that blade of grass and I pull over for a little bit, I know how to navigate that and I come back up quicker. So it's kind of like, yeah, everything you said, I just went on a ramble, but everything you said is perfect to me and sits very, very well. So thank you for sharing that and giving us that part, and even giving us that time, because I know that your time I want to respect your time and what you do as well. And it's not just like, let's just have someone, for everyone listening out there, it's not about having Tarra come on here and do that, because she has a range of levels of knowledge, and we need to respect that people have that. So we can't just get on here and be like, Tarra, can you give me a full reading and tell me everything about me and expect it to be for free? Because if Tarra and I were friends, I would still pay her out of respect, because that's the way that I would want someone to treat me. So really appreciate you giving me that information and that time that you've taken to even delve into that. And that's really special. So thank you, Tarra, for doing that.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. No, I've loved diving into your chart, and it is such a special thing to do. So yeah, when I get the opportunity, I love to. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And also, Tara's been really cool today, guys. My laptop has had a meltdown today with this retrograde stuff going on. I had to re-log into my different email and then get Tara to then log into her Zoom, which now me and both have been able to record. So it's just been a really, really fun night, but also lots of adventures around it. So thank you for being on the podcast, Tarra, and taking your time to be here. So if people want to find you on Instagram and what you do, can you just give us a little bit of what your offerings are at the moment and things like that as well?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Tarra Lee Rullo, Tara with double R and Lee with double E.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I am doing one-on-one soul session readings, and I'm also have my monthly membership open, which is each month looking at the new moon and the full moon cycles, and just going deeper into that is, my membership that I'm doing.
Amazing. That's perfect. That's like the perfect thing to be putting out at the moment, especially with things coming and going with the moon. And,
Yes, I think it is such a great introduction to
astrology.
Yes.
A great introduction to Vedic. I even might jump on there at the moment, actually. So I actually am going to finish with this, but the reason why I was so attracted to Tarra in general was because I listened to a podcast with Siva. Yes. And I actually interviewed her for my podcast as well. Yeah, which was really cool. But your podcast introduced me to her, and I was actually thinking about studying something to do with I can never say it right.
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda. It's Ayurveda. Yeah. Okay. I always think it has an N in it for some reason. Yes. But I've been looking myself at studying Ayurvedic or Ayurveda, and I hadn't decided what I was going to add into my healing routines of people. So both of you popped up, and now it's made me even more want to go into, I think, a field, something that I can, really sink my teeth into as well.
Yes, and I love Siva's work because she does a lot of the psycho-spiritual aspects of Ayurveda, and I just, I love what she is doing. So I'm so glad.
Yeah, we had so much fun, actually. She's absolutely incredible. She is looking at doing retreats in Australia and asked me for some information. And I was like, can you come to WA? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like that. But I think she's thinking more East Coast. So, but that podcast went down a whole different track than what, everyone's so unique, different that I do. So it's just a tailor to wherever the energy wants to go. So thank you for being here. It's an absolute privilege to have you on.
Thank you so much.
I can't stop recording again.
Is it going to let me? Oh, yes.